Hello and welcome to SikhMemories.com. My name is Zahed Suri and today we're joined with Mr. Surjit Singh Gandhi, who is a Sikh historian and author of over 32 books. And Mr. Gandhi, could you just speak to what really influenced you to write?
In fact, when I was studying MA classes, so there an idea occurred to me that there is some sort of philosophy and some particular social system which is very beneficial for the whole humanity. Then I started, reading books on Sikh religion, and ultimately I felt that I should also contribute something to enrich myself and also my friends and also my community. So then I started writing. The first book was History of the Punjab in Punjabi in 1962. Then I wrote History of the Sikh Gurus. Then I wrote Struggle for the Sovereignty, Struggle of the Sikhs for Sovereignty. Then after that I wrote History of the Sikh Gurus Retold, and then Perspectives on Gurdwara Legislation, and then so many other books. History, for instance, I think the 6th and 18th century is one of the books where I'm proud of, because before that there was only one book by Hariram Gupta and no other book was there. But then to cover the period up to 1765, I in a way covered the period up to 1791. So that book is very, to me, it's very, I think that I contributed something which already that part of the Sikh history was already not known. So in total, I have written almost 32 books. Majority of them on Sikh history and Punjab history. My latest book is Punjab under the Great Mughals, Punjab under the Great Mughals. So still I am writing. These
So
days,
what are you working on currently?
I'm working on the latest on Guru Arjan Dev. But I'm just trying to collect material, because I think the contribution of Guru Arjan Dev was immense and very, very important, significant also. I think that had he not been there, the Sikh, in fact, Sikh nation, the Sikh people might have not be as consolidated as we find today. He was in a way philosopher, he was a great organizer, he was a great theologian. So Guru Arjan Dev was in fact, I think, unequal. I don't find any person in the world history to stand in comparison with it. Of course, Guru Nanak was he has in fact, he was as great as Guru Nanak.
Okay.
So he compiled Guru Granth Sahib. He in fact he was responsible for raising Hari Mandir Sahib, the central Sikh shrine. Already there was no central Sikh shrine. So he set in a way model also, gave us model. And in fact, what is in fact Harmandir? Harmandir was in fact the whole dispensation in in design, in architectural design. If you go to Harmandir, in fact, if you study Harmandir, you will in fact study the whole Sikh literature, philosophy. There you can find, you see Harmandir, you will find, in fact, it's a sort of in a way that architecture design is such that it symbolizes the whole world. It's a sort of space. There is no idol, there is not except Guru Granth Sahib. That is the world. The world is there. The only temple in the world which has no material thing to worship, material thing to in fact pay respect. There is only world, and world you sing, world you give you guidance. So and the whole system, there is water you see around it, known as Ramsar, Ya Aramrisar. So there is a water. Water is a symbol of, in fact, spirituality also. So he gave us that central shrine. He gave us Guru Granth Sahib. In fact, when you get Guru Granth Sahib, you get, in fact, your spirituality in objective form. Formerly, there were simply ideas, but there was no objective form. Now you have got. In fact, the process was started by Guru Nanak Dev, and it slowly developed and culminated at the hands of Guru Arjan Sahib. So then that Guru Granth Sahib is a unique book in the sense that there is no, in fact, in the sense that it is meant for the whole humanity, not for any section, for any segment of population, for even for any community. It is in effect treatise for the whole humanity to understand what spirituality is. Formerly, previously, there were ideas here and there, but there was no specific, in fact, design or specific specificity about even spirituality. But now people have got a book which is very clear, which is very authentic, and where from you can get a good idea about spirituality, real idea, concrete idea. Before that, other books were there. For instance, there is a Bible, there is a Quran, but they are not so specific. Just imagine Quran, you can say in Quran it is said that there is God, Allah. They never use any other word. In some other books, people have got some specific name for God, and beyond that they don't go. But in Sikhism, you can speak anything. You can express God in any word you like. You can. So there are, you see, in Guru Granth Sahib there are the composition of not only gurus of the gurus, but of other people who are not in fact even Sikhs. So this is a unique scripture in the world. And then Guru Granth Sahib, then Guru Arjan Sahib gave many other for instance system to propagate. Daswan means that the Sikhs must you contribute something to the common treasury, 1/10 of their income. So that is Daswan, known as Daswan. And Daswan in Christianity there is a Tithe. In Muslims there is also Zakat. But that zakat can be spent only on Muslims. Amount of tithe can be spent only on the Christians. But our Daswan can be spent on any good book and any good project which can benefit humanity. So like that. So then after all, Sikhism developed under other gurus also. For instance, the idea of Sikh saint soldier was in fact made prominent. Of course, in spirit essence form it was there already during Guru Nanak, but in concrete form it was made prevalent by Guru Hargobind Sahib. So what is saint soldier? Again something where this is an idea that in Indian context it was very important. Formerly there was an idea that mundanity or temporality is different from spirituality, but with Guru Arjan Sahib and Guru Hargobind especially, it was held out, told very concretely and openly, vividly, that these two things are not exclusive of each other. They are complementary to each other. Spirituality can't be separate, can be separated from mundanity or temporality. Both are go together. Temporality must, what is temporality in a way? Philosophically speaking, when spiritual things get objective form, they become temporality, mundanity. In fact, this philosophical plane, there is no difference. But still, he made it known to the people that there is no difference, and to symbolize it, Guru Hargobind, you see, wrote two swords, one representing you see temporality, the other representing you see spirituality, and both so the symbol. In fact, why did Guru Hargobind use sword? Just see, even to express spirituality. Sword is in fact symbol. Sword is symbol of clarity, symbol of firmness. So in case very firmly, I you see espouse spirituality, and very firmly I espouse or sponsor temporality. So both are equally important for a Sikh, and a Sikh therefore must be very truthful in temporal affairs, very truthful in spiritual affairs. So in a way, in Sikhism, spirituality in mundanity, through mundanity, you rise to spirituality. So in a way, I know that your name is Sahaj, I think. So Sahaj, what is Sahaj? Sahaj is equableness, perfect unity with God. That stage, when you reach that stage, you then are perfectly peaceful, equable, equipoise you get, and then you feel sort of that stage where you feel that I am no different from God. So that very wonderful stage, the stage the Sahaj in Sikhism is this. In other religions, Sahaj means just something, the happiness. But our happiness is not that happiness. Our happiness is perfect happiness, where you find yourself in unison with God, in complete unity with God. So that is the sage of Sahaj. So in a way, then after that, Guru Hargobind, there are other gurus also, Guru Har Rai, Guru Har Krishan. Then you come to Guru Tegh Bahadur, and then you come to Guru Gobind. Guru Gobind Singh's contribution is this, that he culminated. For instance, many things, many institutions were formed. They wanted certain, uplift or refashion. So Guru Gobind Singh refashioned them. For instance, from Sangat, it became Panth. On a larger scale, when Sangat is on a very large scale, it becomes Panth. When, in a way, then Guru Granth Sahib, in effect, Guru Granth Sahib is compiled by Guru Arjan Sahib. Guru Arjan Dev told the Sikh that word is very important. But when Guru Gobind Singh's period came, the word is so important that it is Guru. Institutionalize it. We in history say that was institutionalized. Or then, after me, there is no, just see, Guru in human form. That word is Guru. So then, today, word is Guru. Or in a way, if you know sociology, then you will understand that it is a very great step. It was a very great step, because you and me can commit mistakes. All are not equal to, cannot be equal to gurus. So we can commit mistakes. So, but our word incorporated in Guru Granth Sahib can't commit mistakes. The same. And then you please try to remember that there was a question to Guru Gobind Singh. Okay, why in other religions there are rules about dietary rules about even marriage and this and that, but you have not designed anything. You have not given us any law about them. So then Guru Gobind Singh told them, don't worry, listen to me. you can't change Guru Gobind Singh because it's spiritual knowledge. But when you sit together as a sangat, when you are there and in the presence of Guru Granth Sahib, you can change you can decide anything about society, because society must always changes, and with the change of times you must change your attitudes also and other things also. But you cannot go against the directions of the Guru of Guru Granth Sahib, because they are final. So in this way this goes on. Then Sikhs entered in the 18th century after Guru Gobind Singh. You know, Guru Gobind Singh was in a way killed. So after the death of Guru Gobind Singh, 18th century began. And now there was in effect the Sikhs up to Guru Gobind Singh had a definite spirituality and definite concepts of sociological formations and definite concept target. They had got definite targets. So naturally they had formed a very important and well consolidated group, very strong group. Or now that group was in fact alternative to the prevalent system which was prevailing at that time. In a polity, you know, there was political system of the Mughals, social system of the Mughals, or Islam, or other system, for instance Shaivism and Vaishnavism, and there were many other sects of Hinduism. So there were many things there, but Sikhs had got their own unique system, or people, say vested interest of all these sects, of all the major religions. They felt, that they would be their vested interest won't be satisfied. Therefore, they went against the Sikhs altogether, and Mughal government at that time went, took very strong measures to finish them. And for instance, Baba Banda Bahadur was killed. Well, what was doing Baba Banda? He wanted nothing except a good government and accepted a honorable status. He didn't want anything else, and he was killed. He of course fought very bravely, but he was ultimately killed after 5 years. Then there were, spate of tyranny against the Sikhs. There were Mughal governors, there were orders like this, wherever you find Sikh, kill him. Wherever you find the Sikhs, to get his hair shorn. And wherever you find a Sikh, speaking a word against Islam, his family should be destroyed. So such certain, strict measures were taken by the government and by the Muslims in general also. Hindus also didn't like it, because Hindu has their own system of social system, have their own spiritual system, which which the Guru didn't like, which the Sikh system didn't accommodate, and then they went against. All Brahmins were against, all Kshatriyas were against. So in fact Sikhs were in a way had to face two enemies at one and the same time: Muslim government, Islamist, and then the Hindu conservatives. So they were very difficult times. So then the Sikhs had to suffer a lot, or ultimately the Sikhs succeeded because of their grit, because of their courage, because of their convictions, or succeeded, and they formed small principalities in the Punjab known as missals. What is meant by missal? Missal is just name of the small principality. The literal meaning of missal is a file. This file. So in fact, in those days, people used to keep record in files. So their name, they got this name from, they adopted this name anyway for principalities. So there were many principalities in Punjab. The total was perhaps not less than 60 or 70. But they were small principalities trying to implement or execute their sentiments and their concepts or their ideas, and they were well respected in the Punjab. What happened after some time, they also became corrupt, and then out of them, you see, one Mr. Ranjit Singh, Sukur Chakya Misal, built his own Sikh empire, and that Sikh empire, Sikh Raj, Sikh kingdom. So he up to 1739. So he in 1839 he ruled over, and then after that, from 39, after 10 years of that, 1849, Punjab was annexed by the British. There were two Anglo-Sikh wars. There were two wars, Anglo-Sikh wars. One war, 4 battles were fought. 6 were defeated. The second battle was also fought, and at Cheliawala the 6 were defeated, and then the Punjab was annexed with the British rule. Now, when 1849 Punjab was annexed, and there was no Sikh kingdom, so the Punjab came under the control of the British. Or British, to begin with, they were against the Sikhs. Then slowly, steadily, they found that Sikhs were not bad, and then they tried to placate the Sikhs, to mollify the Sikhs, and just to not win over exactly, but their attitude toward the Sikhs became benign and mild. And this thing went on for quite a long time. But then, you see, there were certain movements in the whole of India. Congress was formed. People in India began to criticize the government. So now the British wanted that they.
When was this?
British now changed their policies also toward the Sikh. So now what happened exactly? Sikhs, among the Sikhs, there were certain people. You see, among the Sikhs, there were certain things happened on a religious in the field of religion. And those were in fact the Mahants of Gurdwaras. Mahant, you mean who controlled the Gurdwara. They were Udasis. In the 18th century, what happened? There was a, you see, tyranny of the government, political tyranny, and the Sikhs had to seek shelter in jungles and in mountains. So in fact, Gurdwaras, people were afraid of going to Gurdwaras, and the Sangats were not formed, and because they didn't the government didn't allow the people to gather at one place, and the Gurdwaras came under the control of the Udasi saints. They were good, very good to begin with, but ultimately they also feared the government. They know, or one thing more, during the British period, what happened? Those they had you see. They had a lot of land attached to them by Ranjit Singh, or they now started using the income of those land for their own, to cater to their own self-interest. So some of them became very luxurious, and the Gurdwaras, they were known as Mahant also. Their name, they were known as Mahants. So those Mahants, many of them became luxurious, many of them corrupt. And Sikhs were very much perturbed what to do. Ultimately, they gathered together and they decided that they should be ousted from Gurdwara. Now, the British didn't want that because the British thought that Mahants are their tools. Mahants, whatever they say, the Mahants implement. And British wanted that the Sikh community must always say yes to to what they say. Now, the Sikhs began to criticize Mahants, or there was an Akali movement then. And that Akali movement to oust Mahants from Gurdwaras and to get management in their own hands. Number one. Number two, to in fact mobilize themselves or to just organize themselves to work for their own status, for their own welfare. The money collected in the Gurdwaras might be, spent on the projects which are beneficial for the community. And the struggle started. Or in that struggle, government sided with the Mahants. The Hindu conservatives also sided with the Mahants. Sikhs had to, start agitation, work very hard, or then they organized themselves into Shromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee. Shromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee in 1920. So they started for agitation. For 5 years, they go on agitating. Ultimately, the act was formed. Ultimately, the British had to concede their demands. Mahants were most ousted, and Gurdwaras came under the control of Shromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee. And to formalize it, act was passed, known as Shromani, known as Act, of course, was passed. Or as per Act, the Shromani Prabandhak Committee is working still now, up to now. Of course, after partition, there is many Gurdwaras were left in Pakistan, but the Gurdwaras which came in India, they are still still is managed by Shromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee. Of course, now certain other changes are also there. So, well, then the party which struggled for, to begin, that party was known as Akali Dal, Shromani Akali Dal. Shromani Prabandhak Committee is meant for managing the Gurdwara. Shromani Akali Dal was there to agitate to get this act. So after 1925, what happened? Those Akali Dal started political, framed their political program also, and that political program, focus of that political program was that they must get certain concession, must protect the interest of the community, and they tried their best to protect the interest of the. Of course, British, in fact, also after that didn't harm the Sikhs, didn't try to suppress the Sikhs, but the Sikhs, their party Akali Dal, of course, went on doing their bit to improve the lot of the Sikhs and also to take part in national politics. So national politics, while doing all these things, what happened? There were in Indian scene, there was Congress, there was Muslim League, there was Hindu Sabha, and there was Akali Dal, 4 parties. On Akali Dal, from to begin with, was to side with Congress, because they thought that party thought that Congress is the main party, and for the whole of India, the Congress is doing its best. And then you see Congress started many movements. For instance, to begin with, Mahatma Gandhi, Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened, and Mahatma Gandhi, just took certain steps against the British and mobilized the people that the British are not good. And it went on. There was civil non-cooperation movement, and where the Congress said that you should not cooperate with the British. And there was then this civil disobedience movement, 1930, and there were a Quit India movement. In all these movements, Akali Dal sided with Congress. And when Akali Dal was doing all this, it demanded that the interest of the Sikhs must be protected. And Congress gave them full, Congress in fact assured them, gave them full assurance that when the British are ousted from India, the country is free, the Sikhs will be protected. And so much so that in Mahatma Gandhi, even Nehru told that the Sikhs, no constitution will be passed, no part of the constitution will be passed if the Sikhs reject it and don't agree. But when partition came in 1947, partition, in fact, you try to understand one thing very important. In 1940, Muslim League passed a resolution of that is known as Pakistan resolution. Resolution that they would like to have separate state for themselves, that is Pakistan. And the Sikhs protested naturally. Why? Because they thought if Pakistan is made and Punjab becomes, in Punjab they have got no majority, the Muslims have got majority, then they will have to work under Muslims. And when the Sikhs had the bitter experience that the Mohammedan rule is always against them, because in the 18th century they had suffered a lot at the hands of the Muslims, and now they feared that they would repeat that thing. They won't be able to have freedom to even to speak, even to just perform their religious modes. So in fact, they feared all these things. Muslim leagues and other parties, they didn't pay any heed to their sentiments. Other things also happened. Ultimately, but when in Congress also, in a way, listened more to the Muslim, not to the Sikh. Congress did not recognize any Hindu Congress and Mahasabha. No, Congress was in fact dominated by the Hindus. They didn't recognize that the Sikhs also have a personality. They have certain sentiments. They must be respected. In a way, their main, they always gave Mahatma Gandhi in a way. He always said that the Sikhs are part of Hindu religion, while the Sikhs wanted that the identity is quite identity is quite separate from Hindus, and they have got certain things which which are not in consonance with the Hindu thought. They didn't recognize that. They didn't recognize. Always said part of the Hindu, part of the Hindus, part of at many stages, Congress always ignored them, thinking you are Hindus, it's all right. What we are getting, you will get automatically. But that was wrong. From the Sikh point of view. So, 2 or 3 more examples I can quote here for you. Okay, whenever there was some, for instance, Lucknow Pact, there is a Lucknow Pact of 1916, which is very important. In a Lucknow Pact, the Congress and the Muslim League, main party of the Muslim at that time was Muslim League, All India Muslim League. They sat together. They sat together and they decided that after freedom, what would be the political structure? So in that, in fact, Muslims were given certain things, certain rights. Hindus also got about the 6. No party, Congress, nor you see Muslim League, even made mention of in that. There was provision was made for the Muslims, provision was made for the Hindus, but for Sikhs, nowhere they mentioned. When Gandhi, at that time Gandhi was not supreme leader. When their leaders were asked why you have not done it, they said, "Because you are just Hindus." This is wrong. Whenever there was certain, for instance, there was 1909 Minto Morley reform, which say in that reform Sikhs were not given any weightage. And you see 1919 there was another reforms act for reform. Okay. Then the Sikhs were given common weight, separate electorate. They could on their own they could elect or select some party. So in that legislative assembly, so there also they were given a very small share. They could only and they said you are 13%, only small, while the Sikhs claimed that in Punjab the property, the income tax, other things, they are superior to many other people. They should be given more weight. Muslims were given weightage in other part of the country, but Sikhs were not considered. And then there was 1935. Again they were ignored. Ultimately the Sikhs felt that we must try for certain, and we try further. Must you try further to keep their interests safe? And then they framed then they demanded Azad Punjab. They put up demand for Azad Punjab. Punjab should be made a separate country. So in what they said, not country, some separate, you see, province. The name of that province would be Azad Punjab. In Azad Punjab, the Sikhs only formed 20%. 40% political power was in the hands of the Hindus, 40% in the Muslims. But they only got 20%, and they were satisfied. There was no part in India, even in Punjab, where they were majority. But they said, 20% we have got, that we will be able to at least put pressure group we will have, and in this way we will be able to protect our interest. So that was rejected. Then ultimately, when they found that now Pak government, even British government, is is lenient toward the Muslims, and Congress is also lenient. In fact, is willing to surrender and to agree on Pakistan. The Sikhs said, we want Sikh Suba, we want not Punjab, now simple, we want Sikh state. And now about Sikh state, now they started trying. And in that, you see, even Congress supported to begin with, but then, of course, they didn't agree. So the Sikhs tried that they should, Akali Dal, Gyani Gurtar Singh, many leaders had, they tried, but naturally Mountbatten, Attlee government, and the British government decided that they would now quit India and hand over the government to anybody. Or Attlee, Mr. Attlee was the Prime Minister at that time of England, so he announced that. Or now, of course, which party should get the administration? That was the question. Then there were many negotiations at different stages. Ultimately, Attlee sent Mountbatten as Governor General, or gave him direction that you must, up to June 1948, you must hand over the powers to the Indians. So he came here, but when he came, he now reduced the period. Why did he reduce the period? Because he found Hindus and Muslims are not coming to any agreement, and there are no riots also on a large scale, or therefore there is no solution except this. So he then reduced the period that he will go definitely hand over August 1947. So Mountbatten announced. So they or also announced ultimately. To begin with, there was he wanted that cabinet. There are many stages. In fact, one stage was cabinet mission proposal. Cabinet mission proposals. He wanted that should be adopted, but none did agree. Then he said, no, partition must be there. So and Radcliffe mission, there was a boundary commission was formed, and boundary commission was headed by Radcliffe. A1 had Radcliffe. But then within a few months, in fact new maps were drawn, and Pakistan was came into existence on that side, and Bengal. Well, Pakistan means 4 or 5 states here on that side, and Bengal was also to begin with in Pakistan. Ultimately, Bengal you see got separation from Pakistan. So in this way, yani partition. Now what should what would be the fate of the Sikhs when partition was there? So in fact, our population was divided, also divided, and the Sikhs had to were driven by out of Pakistan by the Muslim League, because they thought that in the carving of this Pakistan, the greatest enemy were the Sikhs, or therefore they should be turned out of this, and they were turned out from the Pakistan. They came here. Now the people, the Sikhs, who had made sacrifices for freedom movement, in freedom movement, 80% sacrifices were made by the Sikhs, or for India, in fact, to free India. And when they came to India, they wanted some sort of, respect in terms of sharing administration, in terms of other facilities. When they settled here, they found they faced many difficulties, and that many difficulties. There were economic difficulties. There were difficulties that they were not allowed to express themselves properly and enjoy their culture. Many things they came on their way, and they were frustrated, and naturally they were frustrated. Well, after migration from Pakistan, they were ultimately, because the Sikh character, one of the most important point in the Sikh character is that they're very optimistic by nature. They're very hard working. They worked very hard. They faced many difficulties, but ultimately they succeeded. They settled down nicely in the but in political sphere they were not given their due. They in the whole country, it was very vast. There was central government, there was constitution, and there were certain powers to the provinces. In all these spheres, their interest was not taken into consideration. For number one, before partition, on the eve of partition, the Sikhs were given promises that they would be able to enjoy full liberty in terms of their religion, in terms of their culture, in terms of services, government services. They will be given, their interest would be protected. And it was sent in the constitution. Indian constitution was framed and put into practice in 1950. Partition was made in 1947, 3 years. But in constitution, there was no provision to safeguard the interest of the. While before partition, they were given a promise. They were promised that nothing will be incorporated in the constitution if the Sikhs reject it or don't agree to it. But it was not, followed. It was not conceded. Rather, and you know, as a protest, Bhupinder Singh and Hukum Singh, the Sikh representative, didn't sign. In the constitution, there will be no signature of any, see, because they protested. Okay, their interest has not been protected in the constitution. So then, after that, language, the Punjabi language was not given due. Its due. Punjabi is a language, wonderful language. In fact, the Punjabi culture and Sikh culture is real. Can be. In fact, it's the storehouse of the Punjabi culture and Sikh culture. So it was not, and it was rather given. This it was rather, I should say, insulted by Hindu community. Hindus didn't agree. All the Hindus. There was census, you know, and in that census there was there was an item. There question, in fact, what is your language? All the Hindus practically inserted, said anyway that their language is Hindi, not Punjabi.
This is in Punjab.
In Punjab.
Okay.
So there is census, means the sense of the whole country, and in the sense, then there is a, you see, it was there was a column. What is your language? So they recorded that their language is Hindi, not Punjabi, which was just a thing which I should say something very wrong, and you see something repulsive also, something which expressed their hatred for Punjabi and also of the people who own Punjabi as their mother tongue. They in fact refused to accept Punjabi as their mother tongue. And there are examples, for instance, Jalandhar municipal committee, it was dominated by the Hindus. There was a resolution in 1949 that Punjabi is no language. It's just a dialect. It's no language. It should. We don't consider it a language. Just even Punjab University, it was done like that. So naturally, Sikhs were perturbed. In services also, there was, you see, Hindu officers who didn't recruitment. They made recruitment on the basis of religion. They gave preference to the Hindus, not the Sikhs. And you see, there was hue and cry, and the Sikh leaders openly, even in legislature, assembly, said, "What is happening?" There was a protest, and then, of course, after protest, then you see what happened. On when the constitution was made, there was a question of reservation. You know what is reservation? Reservation is something we say because you are backward, or because you are. In fact, it was a special status given to because of their poverty, or because of you see inability to compete with others. When they gave this concession facility to scheduled caste. You know what are scheduled caste? There are scheduled caste in India. In Hindu societies, you know, had got 4 castes.
All right,
the lowest caste is scheduled caste. Lowest caste is scheduled caste. So, then they gave reservation to them in services. Okay, in services, 5%, 10% are reserved for you. And there are certain 6 scheduled castes who were converted to Sikhism. For instance, Mazhabi Sikh, Ramdasiya Sikh, and there are 2 more. So they didn't recognize them. So then the Sikhs said, "What is this? Our people who are backward, they are not given, while others are given. Hindu are given, but we are not given that facility. What is this?" So they also protested. Ultimately, they had to struggle for it, had to court arrest, and then got the concession. So they felt, what is happening? with us. And similarly, many other things happened. Now, while this thing was happening, Sikhs were trying. So, what Green Revolution occurred. In Green Revolution, the greatest benefactor was Punjab, and Punjab became, in fact, in fact, so far as the wheat production of wheat and was concerned, the topmost province in the whole of India. And when the peasantry now began to became rich also, prosperous also. On prosperous people, they now they started studying, going to schools and colleges, get higher education. Their awareness sharpened, or now they were much present. We are quite we are not being assigned considered as equal to others. So naturally they also felt, and now they also become, their children also got education, and now they wanted also services, but in services they found that there is a discrimination. They also felt dissatisfied. So dissatisfaction went on accumulating. Ultimately, it erupted into certain agitation. The first agitation was Punjabi Subha, for Punjabi Subha. When they, after a lot of struggle, they got Punjabi Subha, and after that, the next was for you see this Khalistan. So today, I think this is.
We'll definitely be having another interview specifically on the topic of Khalistan. Thank you so much for your time.